Hello, everybody. Welcome to your very favorite Bronze Age comic book podcast, Flea Market Fantasy. I am your co-host, Mike L, and as always, I'm joined by
Michael Dell of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
That's right, and this week we have a very special guest. You can introduce him, Mike Dell, because this is your buddy. I've never even met this guy. I don't know who he is, so you can do the intro.
Yeah, you booked the guest, Mike L, but it's from my circle of chums.
That's right.
It's cousin Brandon Damashek.
Woo!
Oh, hey!
There he is.
Joining us.
Cousin
Oh,
Brandon.
good Lord. It's already a fucking nightmare. All right.
Now, Brandon. Now, last week when Mike L told me he had a guest, and he's like, oh, but it's one of your chums there. I'm like, why would cousin Brandon want to do this show again, A? And then B, why would he want to do it when we're talking about Quasar?
Okay, so let me, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to answer both questions very quickly. Number one, I love this show. Why wouldn't I want to do it? Of course. You know, I'm a comic book, well, at least I was a comic book nerd. Secondly, look, I have some thoughts about this comic. And I don't want to spoil anything yet, but let me just say this in one word. Oof.
Here's the funny thing, though, is I gave cousin Brandon a choice of about 7 DC comics or this one Marvel comic, and he picked Quasar. So, there you go. That's what you get for company loyalty.
I was trying to come up. I was trying to come up with like a comparison to describe like exactly Quasar's place in the world. Like, you know, Quasar is the what of what, you know. But the best thing to come up with is Quasar is like the Quasar of comic books. He's terrible. Just don't read Quasar.
So I'm going to ask this now, and I was going to hold off, but I have to ask. So Mike Dell and Mike L, I guarantee you can. Am I wrong to think that at some point there was a Marvel comic? Wasn't it like before, like with the Quasar and the Infinity Watch?
No, that was Warlock and the Infinity Watch.
Ah, son of a bitch! Then who the fuck is Quasar? I was like, I feel like I read some Marvel comics with Quasar, but I'm like, this is not what the Quasar I remember.
So see, Brandon thought he was reading an Adam Warlock book.
Yes, that's what I thought I was going to
That explains it.
Yes.
That explains it.
Yeah,
because
that's exactly right. I was like, where's the Infinity stuff? I'm like,
no one would willingly choose to read a Quasar, except for Mike L. Brandon, are you aware that Mike L used to have a podcast dedicated to Quasar?
Oh, why would you do that?
One of only two in the world. One of only two in the world.
This is my favorite story, though, Brandon. He was one of 2 Quasar podcasts in the history of the world. The other guy, I think, invited Mike L to come on that show, right? And then Mike L gave him the hi-hat. He said, I'm not going to the show.
Oh, my God. That is amazing.
There's only one other guy in the universe who likes Quasar, and Mike L's like, no, fuck you. I'm not your friend.
That's amazing. I love that story. Love that story.
Well, wow. Quasar is my favorite C-list superhero. Yeah,
you can keep going.
I'll have you know that my nickname at work is Quasar. My boss calls me Quasar, just so you know.
Well, that is unfortunate.
Yeah, that's not a nickname.
Why? Because he hates you? Is that why?
Yeah, that's not a nickname. That's an insult.
It was a term of endearment, I thought. Anyway.
By the way, for you scoring at home, we're reading Quasar issue 3 from 1989. Quasar.
Yeah, so if you're out there, you can follow along.
Now one more quick question then before we get into this comic.
Sure.
Am I wrong? Is there another like iteration of Quasar after this? Like I know Quasar, and I'm like, what is this? There has to be, right?
No. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. There's like, okay, this Quasar, I think he was introduced in maybe the early 80s or 78 or something. He had 60. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why don't I give you the background?
Oh, there you go.
I did some research.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, let's start with that. There you go.
This Quasar fellow we're reading about today, his name is Wendell Vaughn. Mike L, do you know his middle name?
Elvis.
That's right. His full name is Wendell Elvis Vaughn.
I like that. Okay.
He was created by Don Glutt, Roy Thomas, and John Buscema. His first appearance was as Marvel Man in Captain America 217 in 1978. And then his first time as Quasar was in the Incredible Hulk 234 at 1979. Oh, how about that?
Right.
So the character, this Wendell Vaughn fella, his backstory is he went to SHIELD Academy. He wanted to be a SHIELD agent, and even though he performed very well, his supervisors, his superiors said, "Nope, we're not letting you do field work because you don't have a killer instinct. You don't have a win-at-all-cost attitude. So instead, you're going to be working security. So get your flashlight and your clipboard and get over there." So his first gig, one of his first gigs as a security guard, he was watching over the quantum bands, which they came off a fella named the Crusader. Michael, can you tell us about the Crusader? Do you know anything about him?
Yeah, the Crusader's original name was Marvel Boy. He was a superhero in the 1950s under Marvel. At the time, they were called Atlas Comics. He had the bands at the time. I don't know if they were called quantum bands, but he had the wristbands. And I believe he came from the planet Uranus, right? Or Uranus? I think.
Uranus.
Yeah.
I think it's Uranus. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Uranus. Michael's Canadian. He'll teach the planets up in Canada.
Just the correct pronunciation is Uranus. But we'll leave that for another episode.
All right.
But anyway, so that's all I know.
Yeah. So
Jupiter. Okay, sorry.
So SHIELD was guarding these quantum bands, if they were called the quantum bands yet, who knows? But these wristbands, and AIM broke in, tried to steal them. Now, what does AIM stand for, Michael? You always get this one right.
Oh, do I? Acquired Idea Mechanics? Is that it?
Sure, that sounds about right. Advanced Idea Mechanics, I believe.
Oh, right. Acquired. What does that even mean?
Yeah. They're the guys that look like the beekeepers, those kind of flat, big helmets, flat heads and whatever.
Right.
So they broke in to try and get those bands, and our buddy Wendell Vaughn, in order to fight them off, he donned the bands, he put them on, and he became super powered, and he fought them off. So that's how he became Marvel Man and then Quasar. And he was an Avenger for a while. How about that?
Yep.
He actually made the Avengers.
Huh.
They were.
Didn't everybody? I mean,
I know they were really lowering their standards.
West Coast Avenger. I mean, come on, everyone made the Avengers.
Yeah, I'm in the Western Pennsylvania Avengers. Very limited.
I love that.
So
West Pennsylvania Avenger.
Anyway,
that's great.
Anyway,
everyone's
that's how
a coal miner. Anyway,
that's how he became Quasar. Michael, explain what he can do with these quantum bands.
Well, essentially, they're like Green Lantern. He can pretty much do anything. He can shoot. He can create, forms, force fields. He can fly with them. Pretty much anything.
And create energy constructs, which I had no idea until I read this issue.
Yeah.
But here's where it all comes together, because Quasar and remember he has that lack of a killer instinct and go with the flow kind of attitude. Well, that actually makes him the perfect guy to wear the quantum bands, because I guess people who couldn't just go with the flow or relax, they were too win at all costs kind of things. They absorbed too much energy and they died from wearing these bands, like when they did experiments. Oh. But he's kind of like the dude in The Big Lebowski, I guess. He can just relax and use the energy.
So let me ask you a question, and again, not to spoil anything, but because again, I've mixed up my characters completely. Does Quasar die at some point?
Should we talk about that?
Well, go ahead, Michael, because I'm sure you know.
Well, I believe around, like, in the middle of the series he dies. Like, around 25 he dies, but then he comes back. And then I think in the 90s he dies, and I think there's a female Quasar later on, right?
There's always a female version. They always
right.
So ultimately, it's like, it's not the individual, it's just the bands.
Yeah, apparently there's been more than one Quasar, right, Michael? There's a couple Quasars.
Well, there's been several Guardians of, what is he called? Not the Guardian of the Universe, the Protector of the Universe. There's been several Protectors of the Universe, and he's one of them, and a long line of them, just like Captain Marvel was one, you find out. But as far as Quasars, technically, no, he's the first one. There was a character named Quasar before this, but she was just like in like what's that Dave Cockrum team, the Starjammers, or one of those teams, or the Imperial Guard or something. Yeah.
But I mean, there were Quasars after him, like people that took the Quasar and wore the bands, right?
At least one. Not many, but at least one.
Okay.
Anyway.
This is already way too much Quasar.
I still can't believe I confused this with Adam Warlock. I'm so upset.
Regretting it now.
Oh, I am, because I was like, when do we get to the Infinity Gauntlet? I was so because that was an awesome comic. I'm like, I'm just gonna spoil it. I read this. This is shit. It was so bad.
Oh, you have
so
to save
bad.
that for the ending. I still have to go through the whole plot.
All right. Well, go ahead. Sorry. Again, I prefaced it with a spoiler alert. I'm just saying it is bad. But please go ahead. Ugh.
Well, we should mention, Michael, the writer here is Mark Gruenwald, and the artist is Paul Ryan. We can talk about them later.
Yep.
But all right, you want to get into the book now, Michael?
Yeah, sure. And we should also mention that on Quasar Chronology, we reviewed every single appearance Quasar ever made up until Quasar number 1. Okay? Including a Fantastic Four annual where only his wrist appears. So, anyway.
Easily his best appearance.
Right. Okay, here we go. So, Quasar number 3. The Cosmic...
cover.
Yeah, awesome. The Cosmic Avenger, Quasar. Not a great logo, not my favorite, but I still have nostalgia for it. It's okay. We got a nice little corner box with Quasar flying out at you. I like it. I don't know about you guys.
And dig it,
Yeah,
cousin Brandon.
The cover's
look,
not bad.
Look at the under the cover, the corner box there, Brandon. They soaked Michael $1.25 for this up in Canada. He paid $1.25.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What year did this come out?
89.
89, yeah.
Wow, and that seems high, right? Weren't they usually like $1 at that point, or like
Well,
75 cents?
Yeah, they're $1 here in the States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$1.25.
Wow. Okay. Sorry
That's
about that.
loony. That's a whole loony and another
loony.
quarter. Yeah. So here we go.
Usually before we dive in, though, we talk about the costume. We got to talk about this costume because it's so awesome. Okay.
Yeah, explain what's going on with the cover, though, Michael. We got the Human Torch shooting at Quasar.
Yeah, we got a little bit of superhero confusion here. Quasar is being attacked by the Human Torch of the Fantastic Four. Human Torch is shooting him with fire, and it's kind of like hitting Quasar and spreading out into this like star shape, sort of. And Quasar's got his bands that they're all powered up, and he's ready to fight back. That's pretty much it.
It
And
says
then
in blazing battle with the Human Torch.
Right.
Plus, within these pages lurks Angler.
That's right.
Oh, you're giving too much away.
If you've ever been scared of a fisherman, get ready. Now, Brandon, you're a big Fantastic Four guy, aren't you?
Oh, shut your fucking mouth. You know I hate the Fantastic Four.
What?
I hate the Fantastic
I
Four.
thought you liked them.
No.
For your wedding gift, didn't you give out Fantastic Four books for like your groom?
No, I did give out comic books, not Fantastic Four. I would have burned those.
I could have sworn you didn't give anyone a Fantastic Four issue.
No, I gave out Spider-Man. I gave out Secret Wars. I gave out X-Men. Like, no.
I invented that whole story in my head then because I thought you.
Who likes Fantastic Four? Like, please, like that is.
Me. I love them.
Why? And that was another reason I hated this comic that we read because I'm like,
because they're
Human
Marvel's
Torch
family.
I was like, great. I get to deal with Johnny Flame being like an ass.
Johnny
Like,
Flame.
whatever is there. I hate Fantastic. I think that's one of the worst comics ever made. It's so boring. Ugh, yuck. No, that's what I'm saying. I was so upset when you assigned this one to me. I'm like,
I
really?
didn't decide. You picked it. You picked it.
I picked Marvel. I didn't pick this bullshit.
Well.
Jesus Christ. You said DC or Marvel. I said Marvel, and this is what I ended up with. I'm not happy. I'm still not happy. I wasn't happy. Enough.
Don't
I
worry.
don't blame
We
you.
still have to go through every page of it. Okay. Let's talk. Are we going to talk about this costume? This awesome costume?
Yeah. Describe his costume because I got a question about this.
All right. So
Please talk about his headband.
He's got an awesome red headband. He's got a red shirt.
Don't just go over, bypass the headband, Michael. Let's talk about the headband. It's a very thin headband.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
why does he wear this headband? Is it like at any moment a jazzercise class might break out? So he has to make sure he has his
Well, the
headband
thing
on,
is,
or-
if you go back to the 1950s, a lot of superheroes had headbands. Like the Legion of Superheroes, they all had headbands. Okay.
well, that doesn't make it
It
better.
serves no purpose. What is it though? That's the
Well, neither does his cape, but he still has a cape, right?
Oh, yeah, but capes look
Ah,
cool. They can
stunned-
stabilize him while
stunned
flying.
Into silence, I see.
The cape stabilizes him while flying.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have you know that I created my own team of superheroes, and I purposely gave them all headbands just
That sounds
because.
about right.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. All right, so get back to the costume. Mike.
Okay. So he's got a headband, and then he's got a red, what's it called, shirt with a very cool symbol on it, which I don't even know what it is. But
no, it's not a cool symbol. Brandon,
awesome.
you know what? Like, what do you when you see the symbol? What do you think, Brandon?
Wait, I want to go back to this. You couldn't come up with the word shirt?
Yeah. Well, he was thinking of the Canadian word. He's going to go with tunic or something like Canadian.
What did I say? I said shirt.
Yeah, but
there was some hesitation. It was like, yeah.
What do you call this?
Well, it's not really a shirt, though. I mean, it's part of. It goes, underneath his crotch. So what do you call that? So
that is true.
Yeah,
a leotard. I don't know.
Yeah, a leotard.
A jazzercise outfit.
Yeah.
Hence the headband. Yes.
And notice, Michael, on the big splash page here, it's colored up to his chin, so it's like a turtleneck spandex.
Right. And it's got this logo on his chest. I don't know how to describe it, but it's kind of like an upside down triangle, but it's got 3 sections to it for no reason. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but I love it.
It's kind of weird. I don't know if it's like a heart as well. It looks almost like a heart or a little bit, or it looks like a gas company logo.
I think it's a variation on Superman's logo, but I don't know. It's like a shield. There you go. It's like a shield.
I guess.
Keep in mind, I don't have it pulled up in front of me, so I'm going on sheer memory right now.
You want me to send you the link? No.
I'm on my phone. I'm just not in front of my computer, so I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah, he's seen it enough. He's
exactly.
dealt with Quasar enough.
I've lived this nightmare, and I can, it's still haunting me. That's fine. I'll do
my best. All right.
Michael, he's got bare arms, and he's got pretty deep cuts for the arms. Like they go all the way down to his lower rib cage. That's kind of weird.
Yep.
He kind of has like a title, almost like a wrestling championship belt. It's a bigger than a normal belt.
And what's funny is, it's the same design as his quantum bands, but it's a non-functioning belt.
Yeah, that is odd.
It doesn't do anything. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like black with yellow circles around it.
Gems or whatever. Yeah, circles.
Then he's got the blue leggings and like red and yellow boots, kind of like Colossus from the waist down.
Yep, true. And then he's got a blue cape, and that's pretty much it. So, classic costume.
I just don't get the headband and the logo on the chest.
I love it. Classic.
So
anyway,
okay. Sorry, and again, excuse me for jumping ahead if I am, but just tell me if you're going to get to this. I'll shut up. Are we going to get into like a sort of page by page or scene by scene description of like the dialogue and everything else? Because I have issues.
We're doing that right now. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. All right, then I'll shut up. All right. Perfect.
Okay. So I mean, hey, at this point now you can jump in anytime as long as you're talking about the page that we're on. Okay.
Okay. That's fine. Go ahead.
So basically, we open up with Quasar landing on like the front lawn of his house his dad's house. I guess he lives there, and he has with him Eon, who we should also tell people about Eon really quickly. He met Eon while on Uranus, and Eon is kind of like, I don't know what he is, but he's an alien. He looks like a human head with human brown hair, but the bottom of his head is like, I don't know how you describe it, almost like branches of a tree. And then one stump. Yeah, and then one side of his head has a single eyeball. Okay, it's kind of gross.
He's sort of like if Swamp Thing was just a head in a weird way. That's what I kept thinking.
But the weird thing is, and this is the most, like, I like Eon, but the most embarrassing thing about his design is that even though he's an alien, even though he's half tree, half human, even though he's just a head, he still has a superhero mask. Like, why does he have a mask over his face?
Well, like only his nose and his mouth are like.
I didn't see. That's funny. I didn't think that was a mask. I thought that was part. Okay, maybe I didn't look at it well enough.
Well, it's not an actual mask.
It's not like it's material, but I mean, obviously, it's based on 95% of every superhero's mask design. So.
Because don't they establish that he's like 1 billion years old or something?
Yes.
Like that?
Yeah.
Ugh.
And I believe, Michael, he created the quantum.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. He appoints the protector of the universe. Yeah.
Yeah. So now Quasar is the protector of the universe. Sleep easy, everybody. Quasar under control.
So basically, Quasar is bringing Eon, and Eon has told him that Quasar has to go and protect Earth from this threat that's going to destroy the universe. And the only thing Eon knows about the threat is that it's going to come to Earth. So this is the best place for Quasar to be. So Quasar and Eon land on the front lawn. They're trying to get into the house by going through the garage. But the first thing that happens is Quasar's father spots them. He hears them, so he comes out with a flashlight and a baseball bat. He's about to attack. And Quasar's like, "It's just me, Dad, your son."
And if I can interject, this
Go
is
ahead.
after he warned, let's be quiet in case like a crazy old man or anybody hears us out here.
Right.
Like he says something along those lines, which I'm like, well, and then your dad just comes out and hears you. I mean, that was weird, I thought.
A little bit.
Like we have to be quiet in case somebody, like we don't want to wake anybody if some crazy old person comes out. Sure enough, old dad comes out. Yeah.
Well, I guess his fears were not unfounded, right?
Could have had him like kick over a can or something.
Something. Yeah, I didn't love that. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So basically, he introduces. So then he's like, "My dad's gonna have a hard enough time dealing with me being back from Uranus so soon. You wait here." Tell him the scoop. So basically, Eon is now hiding in the garage. So Quasar walks inside with his dad, and he's like explaining, like, yeah, So I was okay, fine. I'll say Uranus. So I was, on Uranus, but I flew back. Oh, and it also took him 6 years to get there, but only like a minute to get back because he used warp space, whatever it's called, or quantum.
He learned how to bend space or something.
Right. Yeah, and okay, and I'm going to jump in again real quick.
Go ahead.
So one of the things I hated about this comic, I hated Quasar's dialogue, where it's like, I'm famished, and I'm like, like the way he spoke to the Human Torch and everything. I'm like, he's a jackass. Like, who talks this way? He sounded like such a goddamn asshole. I was like, who would root for this guy? He just sounded awful. That and the other thing, more Eon, please.
Oh, really? You like the little tree stump head guy?
I did. I wanted more of him, and then because everything. And I know you're going to get to this, but it's like, oh, Dad meets Eon, blah blah blah. I was like, it's like cut to next day. Well, that went weird, but okay, I'm out flying. What? What are you talking about? Like there was this whole setup about how awkward this is going to be, and it's just like, gloss over that.
Yeah, we could have got some fun with.
I hated it.
But so Quasar's talking to his old man, and while he's getting a sandwich, and he fills him in on everything that's been going on, and we get a lot of exposition and background info about how he went to Uranus and he fought a guy named Death Urge.
Yeah, very cool.
Oh, so explain this to me too. So since this is issue 3, are issues 1 and 2 with Death Urge? Like, is that what we see in those two issues?
It's kind of weird. No, issue 1 is a flashback to like 1978, showing how Wendell Vaughn, found the bands. Fought Shield, blah blah blah. Then ended up becoming Quasar. Then issue 2 is also a flashback of him flying to Uranus. He gets to Uranus after 6 years. Because by the way, he was not in any Marvel comic from 1983 to 1989. So they actually used like the real time to explain, why he was gone. So he was gone to Uranus, and when he gets there, he basically faces this guy named Death Urge that's trying to convince him that because Quasar wants to die, he's going to kill him. And then by the end of the issue, Quasar meets Eon. Eon kind of helps him out, and then that's it. He defeats Death Urge, and then he flies back.
Well, I got to interrupt because I think Brandon's either cooking or going to the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. What is going on?
Oh no, sorry. I'm cleaning some stuff. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
I'm just doing. I shouldn't be multitasking. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't interrupting a private moment.
No. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
But no, you're fine. But
I'm
anyway,
multitasking when I'm on the phone. Sorry about that.
So he fights his death. You can't talk Quasar. You got to be doing something else. You can't just be talking Quasar. But he fights his Death Urge guy. But here's the line it kind of confused me from. He's filling in the backstory about going to Uranus. He goes, considering that Uranus is 300 times the size of Earth, it didn't take me as long as I expected to. Oh, okay, I missed the word. All right.
Wait, what's that?
Well, because he says, considering Uranus is 300 times the size of Earth, it didn't take me as long as I expected to hone in on the only urban development, the 7th planet post. All right, see, that makes perfect sense. I read this while I was waiting in the car. I took my mother to a doctor, and I read it in the car, and I missed the word expected. So I was very confused by that line. But all right, it makes sense. All right, yeah. So, yeah. So he's flying around Uranus, which, sounds weird. But because he's trying to find the origin of the quantum bands. And when he did, I guess, Eon told him how to use the bands to get more powerful and stuff. So he defeated Death Urge, and he brought Eon with him back to Earth because Eon told him that the greatest threat is here on Earth, right?
Yes.
Like,
yeah,
that's why he has to just come back here. So, yeah,
that's
he's talking
right.
to his old man. I
Yep.
don't know, anything else come out of this?
Not really. Just that he's gonna be starting up a new job, or he's gonna start business as a
That's right.
security consultant firm.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
Well, that confused me when I first read it, but then when I got the background on him and how he worked security for Shield,
Right.
I'm like, all right, that makes sense. But Brandon, speaking of the dialogue, here's a great line from his old man. I'll be okay. There's just so much to assimilate. Yeah, because that's how people talk.
His dad said that?
Yeah.
But then Quasar says, "But I suppose this would be a bad time to tell you about the alien in the garage." Wah wah wah. I love this.
But see, I prefer that though, like where it's like bad sort of Peter Parker jokes
Yeah.
versus like some of the I forget some of the things he says to like the Human Torch, but and in that whole scene, but I'm like, nobody thinks / speaks this way. It is so phony baloney and irritating. Where I just lost my mind. I'm like, I hate this character. I hate him.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
So the next page, we see Quasar flying around New York City. And Mike, we get one of your favorite things. They just put like a copy of New York City in the background there.
Yeah, like a photocopy. Yeah, I don't like that, but I can forgive it because it's Quasar. But
and
yeah.
He's flying by the Statue of Liberty. He's like, hey, it looks a little green. And maybe
looks
they
too good. What, they clean it? Hey.
Right.
And they did, didn't they? Wasn't that a big deal?
I remember. Yeah, I've never been to New York, but I remember that. They did clean it in 1986 or so, I think.
Yeah, so he's looking for office space for his new security business. And just so happens, Mike, there's office space for rent in the Baxter building. Fantastic Force headquarters.
Explain that to me. So, like, is his character, like, pre-Quasar? Is that what he does?
Yeah, he trained with S.H.I.E.L.D. to be security, remember? He
let
him out.
Oh, right.
Yeah. He worked at a place called Project Pegasus. He was like the head of security there.
Gotcha. So he thinks he's going to open. And by the way, Kayla shows up for a job interview wearing that. Come on.
Well, we'll get to that
later.
We'll
get to that later.
Okay. Well, I'm just all right. Fine.
So then Quasar happens to just fly by the Human Torch while he's fighting a supervillain. I don't know if
some dude.
Is it a supervillain though?
I don't know if they give him a name, but the supervillain.
They don't name it. It's a guy with some blowtorches or whatever. It's not a supervillain.
And let me ask you this: is he really a supervillain or criminal mastermind if he's shooting a blowtorch at the Human Torch?
Human flame?
Maybe
yeah, the Human Torch. Exactly. I had the same thought. I'm like, what is this? Who's going to win this battle?
Why didn't they make him a guy with like at least a laser gun or an ice beam
or ice? No, yes, ice. Exactly.
He's shooting flame at the Human Torch.
He's like, I got this.
Yeah, I'm gonna set him on fire even more. I don't know.
I had the same thought. Thank you so much. Like,
yes. So Human Torch beats this curtain jerk or jabroni guy. I don't know who he is, and then so Quasar just doesn't get involved. He's like, oh, good thing I didn't get. No one likes a Budinsky. That's what he says. Good thing I didn't get involved.
Budinsky, that was one of the ones too. That's right. Where I'm like, what the hell is this? Who is this guy? Because what is this? It's like, how old is this guy? He's opening a security business, but he's talking about Budinsky. So like it doesn't make any sense. He makes I hate it so much. I hated it.
The next page, he's meeting with the guy trying to get that office space in Baxter Building. Now, Mike L., that's got to be pretty steep rent, right? In the Baxter Building?
I'm going to imagine, yes. I'm going to imagine.
But you know what? He does acknowledge that it's steep, where he's like, starts thinking, can I afford this? I don't know. It's like 1 month down and then one. He does do that at some point.
Yeah, at one point he says that the down payment in 1 month is going to be his whole savings account.
Right. So they address that. So then just as he's leaving this meeting with this real estate guy, he just happens to pass this hot, I guess, redhead. This
blondish red, I guess, or blonde.
Yeah, blondish redhead. Walking by wearing she's basically wearing like a bra and a jacket. And
let's be fair, it's a sex worker.
Yeah, she looks like a hooker. She does. She looks like a hooker.
A very short leather skirt. But Mike L. and Brandon, look, she's wearing a headband.
That's right. That's right.
Quasar would have it no other way.
It's kismet. They were meant to meet.
That's right.
So, oh, by the way, in the foreground, that one panel, Mike Dell, that kind of looks like Stephen Strange, eh? Original page 11, middle right. That looks like Stephen Strange in the foreground.
Yes, it does. I think it is Stephen Strange.
Probably him, yep. Because it's New York, right? So basically, this is kind of a, it's such a trope of like, I don't know. I mean, it's almost like the cliche of the guy writing the screenplay. Like, what's that? The manic pixie dream girl. Like the fact that he just happens to cross paths with this gorgeous girl, crying, and he's got to come to the rescue, and he ends up offering her a job. And
because Michael, she's crying because she just blew the interview at a job she really wanted.
Yep.
Right.
And she wanted the job so much that she dressed like a hooker to go to the
interview. Right.
And then acknowledges, maybe I should have dressed a little bit more professionally. So you don't think like a bustier and a headband and a jean skirt was appropriate for a job interview? Weird.
Hey, we don't know where she was applying. She might have been applying to be like a call girl or something, right?
But no. She says like she makes it pretty clear she was applying for like a real
secretarial job. Yeah, that's right, secretary. Oops.
Right,
okay.
Exactly. And this is what she opted to wear, and then is shocked, like, you know what? They didn't see the real me.
Oh, she would have, like, sat down. They would have, because that little leather skirt, like, it was connected on the side. If you pay attention, on the right side on her hip, there's like it's like that's where it's connected together. Like little there's holes down her right hip as well.
That's
exposing flesh.
And so, let's be fair. You know who would have hired her? Mike Dell.
Me. You know who would have promoted her the first day? Me.
Yeah.
No problem.
Kayla.
Yeah, Kayla. So Quasar's like, hey, lady, smoking hot lady in headband and leather skirt. I might have a job for you. Wink, wink.
That's
Once I get my office together.
A blow job. Oh, sorry. No, sorry.
She's like, sweet. No, she's wondering if this guy's a weirdo or not. But, he's got his glasses on. So no one can tell, it's Quasar. He's got his glasses on.
Right.
And his hair is like slicked back or something, too.
Yeah.
Like, he looks different.
Yeah. So he's writing down his phone number, but then he senses a disturbance, Michael, some energy.
Right. Some strange being just happens to walk by in the foreground, but this being is not all like fully visible. Parts of him are invisible, and we don't know why yet.
Yeah, he's like strips are cut out of his body.
Yeah, exactly. So like you can see his hand, parts like top half and bottom half of his face, but not the middle, and other pieces of his torso, and then he's just kind of gone.
He's like green.
So right, and also and Quasar's quantum bands were tingling. That's how he knew that he was there. So he's like, I just remembered something important I forgot to do. Call me, okay? So he takes off to go after this guy, goes into the elevator, and changes into Quasar, right?
Yeah.
And
get the headband on. Gotta put the headband on.
Yep. Yeah. That's the way he can fight crime.
So I'm gonna ask the experts here. How does how do the tingling bands differ from Spidey sense?
Don't ask questions, okay?
I think he can only sense energy, right, Michael? It's
not danger. It's not danger. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It is a little bit too similar to Spidey. I'll give you that.
Yeah, because I kept thinking, I'm like, well, what is this? This feels like Spidey sense, but okay, all right.
Okay.
I wanted to ask. I thought you might have an answer. I'm like,
I mean, I have read every issue, but not in like 20 years, so I got to go back and reread.
Fair enough.
Okay, so anyway, so he goes. So Quasar is following the energy signature of this guy, and this guy.
By the way, you know how you know this guy's dangerous? He took the elevator.
That's right.
That son of a bitch. He had to take the elevator.
I thought that was weird too. I was like, what? Okay.
So he flies up from one. So Quasar flies from one elevator car to he's tracking the other guy to the other one, but Angler is like using his like whatever triangle hand to kind of like override the controls of the elevator thing. He ends up coming out onto the floor. I guess I'm assuming this is like the headquarters of what the Fantastic Four are, and his speech is littered with these little triangle symbols. So even his dialogue is only half there, right?
Because I think the gimmick here is he's a man who merged with an alien, so he's half human, half alien, and so half the time he's speaking in English, and then there'll just be triangles there. That's the alien language.
I think we find out later that he's also like partially in like, you know, the fifth dimension, and that's why only part of him is there. I could be wrong about that though.
Yeah, I don't know.
In his glyphs. But hey, do me a favor. I have to run for 1 second. I don't want to get off the call, but I'm gonna be right back.
What the
Give me a minute. Just keep talking. I'll be right back.
Yeah, we'll take you talking.
This is total chaos. Okay, but anyway.
Brandon has to go do something important.
All right.
But yeah, so this angler fella, one of his other gimmicks is he can like split himself in two.
Yes.
But he kind of teleports half of his body to somewhere else.
And again, I think that's because he's just sort of going through another dimension. He's not actually teleporting. He's kind of just walking through that other dimension, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. So he starts fighting Quasar, and he cuts through Quasar's little energy shield. And
yes.
Quasar puts an energy cage around him. But this is my favorite. He just steps through the energy, or he teleports around it or somehow.
Right.
And then Quasar says, he ripple stepped right through it.
Best line of dialogue in the book.
That common term, ripple stepped.
And then then Angler's like, I have no ineffectual, and then so we can't understand exactly what he's saying. Then we cut over to Kayla, and she is about to take another elevator, and then she goes in and
because Quasar, when he was writing his phone number, he gave her his building lease agreement. Like,
right.
He gave it to her, so she's trying to return the lease agreement to him.
Gotcha. Okay. So then she goes into this elevator, and we cut to a close-up of the sign that says private, and it's got the Fantastic Four logo, meaning she probably shouldn't be in this elevator.
By the way, one thing we forgot about Kayla's outfit, she's got the headband, the bra, the coat, the short leather skirt, then bright red cowboy boots.
That's right. She's dressed for a Whitesnake video. I love it.
Yes, that's very odd. Mm-hmm. Like, not stiletto heels or anything. Big red cowboy boots.
Right. Well, at least we know Mark Gruenwald's taste in women, right?
Or maybe Paul Ryan.
Ryan, yeah. So anyway, then we cut back to Quasar. He's trying to track down the Angler. And by the way, Angler's got a big A on his chest, just so we,
Yeah, I guess that's the human side of him, because if he was just an alien, of course, he would not have an A.
Right. Good point. Very good point. So anyway, he
also has an A on his face, too, by the way, Mike.
That's true.
So he has a lot of A's.
Yep. And it's weird too because his head has a big triangle in it, like it's like sideways.
Yeah, because he's like the right side of his head's human because he's got the eye. He only has one eye as well.
Okay,
and then the left side's the alien.
Okay,
because his right hand's normal as well, but his left hand has that big triangle thing on.
Right. Okay. So Quasar tries to snatch him by turning his or creating this like energy. What do you call that? Like I don't know what that is. Like not a wrench, but like
it's almost like calipers.
Whatever.
But I didn't realize he was such a ripoff of the Green Lantern until I read this.
Yeah, totally.
But his energy constructs are yellow. That's like kind of shot at the Green Lantern, right? Like he could beat the Green Lantern.
That's true. I wonder if Quasar has a weakness against the color green, right? You never know. So anyway, then we
he's fighting Angler here, and Angler's green.
Good point. Maybe it's wood then, right? Because remember, the Golden Age Green Lantern could not affect wood. But anyway, so the Angler is talking to himself, and he actually has a line where he says something bisect 3-dimensional something, and that's where again that hints at the fact that he's actually like a 5-dimensional being or whatever. So he's using his triangle hand to cut this machine. We cut back to Quasar, who's trying to break into the room that Angler's in, but then all of a sudden he's spotted by the Human Torch. And the Human Torch thinks he's still the Crusader. Because the Crusader had the same costume, but he's a different guy. And Quasar's like, no, don't you remember me? He's like, I came to the Fantastic Four Christmas party. But Human Torch doesn't. And by the way, I read that issue. But anyway, Human Torch does not remember him. He's like, no, I'm going to shoot first and ask questions later. So he just keeps fighting him. He tries to like put him in like a fire cage, but Quasar uses his power bands to kind of like break out of them. And he's trying to convince Human Torch to listen to him. But now here's the thing. One rule that I think Green Lantern always had is that whenever he uses his ring, he always tried to use a different like formation every time. But as you can see here, Quasar reuses the shield, and then he reuses the whatever those are called. So not very creative. I gotta say, not very creative.
Well,
So
it's a slightly different like design of the calipers or the
okay.
or the grabby things.
Okay.
Because look, it has another handle on the back end of it. So look, he's evolving. He's evolving the
Give you
design.
that. All right.
So they're still fighting him. Quasar's like, hey, why don't we not do that thing where the heroes fight, misunderstand each other, and fight? Because we gotta get to.
So hey, it's okay to use cliches as long as you call attention to them, right? I always say.
Also, Mike, when Quasar flies, he leaves behind a trail of pixie dust behind him. You notice?
That's right.
Pixie dust.
Very cool.
I'm back, by the way.
Hey, it's Cousin Brandon. We just got to the part where Human Torch shows up and they're fighting.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Sorry, there was a mishap with one of the dogs. Sorry.
All right.
The wife was like, sorry. There's 3 dogs, had to go take care of some shit. Okay.
Right.
Anyway.
So basically now we're inside and the angler is kind of, in his dialogue is revealing what his plan is. He's trying to steal this thing called the Nth Projector from the Fantastic Four's like storage room. I like how the storage room is just like wooden shelves too. I think that's so cool. But anyway, so the Human Torch is still fighting Quasar, and then Quasar finally convinces him, like, okay, listen, you got to listen to me. We got to team up and fight this guy. He's like, okay, fine. So then they track him down to the weapons vault, and so right away the Human Torch tries to encase him like in like a fire kind of cage, but once again the angler just splits his body into 2 and steps out of it. Right then he recombines and just leaps through a window, going through it, and so. Foiled again, right? So the heroes try to go after him by going through the wall and then following him down like a staircase. And then, what happens? It turns out that Kayla has run into the angler, and the angler now has Kayla prisoner.
Hey, Brandon, while you were away, I pointed out that Kayla is also wearing bright red cowboy boots. Did you notice that?
I like that. I should also
really?
point out, Kayla is the name of my daughter's best friend.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yep. That was the first thing I thought. I was like, oh, no.
That's weird. Yeah.
Right.
So before the angler could cut Kayla's throat, well, I like how, because angler, he's this interdimensional being and everything, but he gets distracted because he has to press the elevator button. And when he gets distracted, Quasar hits his little knife hand with the
wait, is that when he gets distracted, or is it when she steps on his foot?
No, it's right after that. Yeah, she steps on his foot right after he gets shot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he turns around to push the elevator button, and Quasar pounces.
This guy who can go through walls has to hit the elevator button.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes no sense.
Sure.
She stomps on his foot with her cowboy boot, ducks down, and then Quasar it's kind of like holding up his triangle arm. So he's like, good going, ma'am. You provided me with just the opening I needed. I just hope I can whip up enough locks and shackles to immobilize him. And then he was like, I'll take care of this. So he...
Yeah, this was confusing. Human Torch just flies in and dissolves that metal gadget that the guy
Okay, let's talk about this for a minute. Did they dissolve the weapon or dissolve the angler? I was so confused.
It was the weapon. The angler's still there.
Yeah.
So what happened to the angler?
Well, they're just going to take him to prison.
Yeah, we haven't got.
Oh my god! I was so confused by this.
Yeah, Human Torch flies in and like evaporates that weapon he was stealing, and then like Quasar even says like, "What the hell are you doing? Why'd you?" And he goes, "Hey, if that guy can figure out how to use it, it's got to be bad news. I'm just going to delete it. Get it out of here." All right, Johnny. Good luck telling Reed Richards that when he comes home and finds out he's going to be pissed.
Well, there was a funny footnote in there about oh, see, Captain America, whatever issue.
89, yep.
But it was like, if you can believe it, or like something like that. Like there's a funny.
Well, no, because it says because Human Torch is basically like a team of high-tech commandos attacked the FF a few years back and tried to beam us to another world with that thing. Then it says in Captain America 289 of all places. Like what?
Of all places, that was it. Of all places.
Well, I think
I love this sort of like commentary though. Of all places.
Well, because it's a Fantastic Four in Captain America.
I know, I get it, but I love that. I just thought that was really funny. Of all places. Like, can you believe it? Like, that just really made me laugh. I was like, huh, okay.
You know what else I found weird about all this? Johnny Storm, isn't he like the guy who's always hitting on ladies, and he doesn't even look at Kayla, doesn't even make a pass at her.
Oh, she's
like,
taken now. Maybe you think she's
yes,
taken. So then basically, yeah, Human Torch is like, okay, well, I'll take care of this guy, and then Quasar's like, okay, Angler, talk. Why'd you steal that dimensional projector? And he answers him in triangles, and then Quasar's like, I'm not sure, but I think I was just sworn at.
Yeah, that's comedy, Brandon.
Yeah,
that's
I love it. So then basically,
I like jokes.
Human Torch is like, okay, we'll take care of Angler. Quasar's like, I'll take care of Kayla. So he walks off, and then it cuts to that night, and Quasar comes home, and he's like, wait a minute, light on in the garage. What's going on? He cuts in. He's like, hey, Dad, Eon, let me tell you what. Hey, not right now, son. Your guest hasn't finished telling me about Glacondra, the first cosmic champion. I love it. And then Quasar is like, yeah, I guess what happened to me isn't half as interesting as that.
Let me offer an edit. Okay. What if when Quasar comes in and opens the door, his dad and Eon are having sex?
Thank you. I was just gonna say that. What if Eon's blowing his dad? Is what I was gonna say. That's exactly right.
I was gonna say
because either way, it could end with wah wah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Eon is only a floating head, so I guess they're limited in what he can do.
But you know what he can do? Blow dicks. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
There you go. All right. Well, before we get into the writing specifically, let's talk about the writer here, because it's a pretty interesting story. This fella. His name is Mark Gruenwald, of course. He's very famous. He's born in 1953 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Sadly, he passed away in 1996 at the age of 43.
Yes.
Jeez.
Wow. We've all outlived Mark Gruenwald. How do you feel about that?
Was there any what's the cause of death? I mean,
heart attack.
No, I'll tell you exactly what it was. He read Rob Liefeld's first issue of Captain America. No. I'm not joking.
What?
No, that has to be it.
That's 100%. This is what happened. You guys know about the famous Heroes Reborn thing?
No,
Marvel,
I don't. But okay.
Yeah, a corporate Marvel basically signed a deal with Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee without telling anyone about it. And basically, one day they came into work and said, "Oh, by the way, starting like next month, we're giving these 6 comics over to Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld." And no one knew about it. Everyone was pissed off because I've like talked to these guys like Mark Waid and Peter David and all them. And basically, Mark Gruenwald was one of the guys that he was, he had written Captain America for like 12 years. And
10 years. 10 years.
Okay, 10 years. And now he wasn't writing at this point, but he was like considered the, like the godfather of Marvel continuity. He was like,
right.
He was obsessed with, they were so close to his heart and blah, blah, blah. So basically, he left work Friday, and healthy guy, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, eats healthy, exercises. He's like, okay, well, nothing I can do about this. I guess I'm going to go home and I'm going to read Rob Liefeld's first issue of Captain America, and he never made it back to work. He died of a heart attack.
No way.
Well, I don't think he specifically read the book and dropped ever dead. He had a congenital heart defect, but either way.
Whatever you say. Okay.
I prefer Mike L's version. I will be honest with you.
Well, I guess it was such a surprise.
Right.
It came out of the blue, and he was known as a jokester. People thought it was a prank. They didn't believe it at first.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he just
so young. Now, was this a big fat man, or was he just a normal sized man?
Skinny.
Normal sized.
Oh my God! That is upsetting. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And, so anyway, where he got his start.
Wife with kids, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Great. Now tell me jokes.
Yeah. So he.
I'm like,
he got into the comics biz. He was one of them fanzine kids, like a lot of people back in that era. He created his own little fanzine called Omniverse, and then he wrote articles for the official DC fanzine, The Amazing World of DC Comics. That is just a blatant lie right there in advertising. Amazing World of DC Comics. So in 1978, he was hired by Marvel as an assistant editor and remained there the rest of his career. The same year, in 1978, he also wrote issues 9 through 20 of Spider-Woman. And then in 1982, Jim Shooter made him a full editor and put him in charge of the Avengers, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Spider-Woman, and What If. He shared an office with Denny O'Neil, and he considered Denny O'Neil to be his mentor. How about that, Denny O'Neil?
Very cool.
From 82 to 84, he also did some penciling. He drew some issues for random titles, including the 1983 Hawkeye Limited Series, which I believe he also wrote. Also in 1982, he helped co-write The Contest of Champions.
Right.
Oh, nice.
And then Mike L. in 82-83, he wrote the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, issues 1 through 15.
Oh, fuck
That's
yeah.
Right. Yep.
I love those so much. Okay.
Yeah, so do we. They were great. So then in 1987, Marvel made him the executive editor, and he was in charge of continuity because he knew everything about Marvel Comics because he wrote that handbook, so he knew it all. Then he had a 10-year run on Captain America, like Michael said, from 1985 to 95. And during that run, he created U.S. Agent John Walker, who is now featured prominently in the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show on Disney+.
I've not seen it. Okay.
In 1985-86, he did all 12 issues of the Squadron Supreme limited series.
That's right.
He co-created and did all 32 issues of DP7,
Woo!
1996 to 90 or 86 to 89. That was a New Universe title. Remember the New Universe?
Nah.
He wrote 59 of the 60 Quasar issues from 89 to 94.
Oh, hey!
That's right. Heck to the
He only missed issue 59. Otherwise,
I was going to say, how did he miss one issue? That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, like we mentioned, he died unexpectedly. But according to his wishes, his ashes were added to the inks that were used to print the Squadron Supreme trade paperback. So how about that? So he's like living on in the comic books. That's pretty good. There you go. That's Mark Gruenwald. All right. So now that we've talked about his tragic life and everything, let's try not to make fun of this too much. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of the writing here at all.
No, it was terrible. I thought it was awful.
Anyway, so yeah, this made me a fan of Mark Gruenwald for life. I mean, obviously, once I got older, I went back and reread this in Squadron Supreme. It wasn't as good as I remembered. Like, there's some very clunky dialogue, and the flashbacks are brutal. Like, I never read these flashbacks. They're just so in-depth and pointless. And do you guys remember the Atlantis Attacks annuals?
Yes.
Remember those?
No.
Where, yeah.
Like a summer event or whatever.
Yeah, so every single Marvel annual crossed over to one story called Atlantis Attacks. And at the back of every annual, there was like a 5 or 6 page story, but it wasn't really a story. It was just these types of flashbacks. And they're terrible. So I think that's his weakness, is he's a slave to continuity. But I do like the dialogue. I like the characterization.
You like the dialogue?
Oh, I love it. I mean, it's not great, but it's laid back and fun, and I love it. I mean, this is, again, I had every issue, so obviously I enjoyed it.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm going to jump in here. It's just because, like, again, I'm not. You guys are clearly like the experts at this point. Like, again, I loved comics as a kid. I used to read them. But let me just tell you this. I thought the dialogue in this was terrible. I thought the thought balloons, like where it's like, oh, they're terrible. Yeah. I thought the thing I was actually most interested in, like I said, was what's his name, Eon, and was also Death Surge. I was more interested in that. Everything that happened in this, I'm like, this is fucking lame. Like I hated that, like, the Human Torch was like, oh, I'm going to temporarily contain you here because I'm not sure who you are, when there's clearly another presence in the building. I hated all of this. I thought this comic book, I was so mad. I was like, what a one-off piece of shit this was. Because, like, that's what this was. Like, this comic to me had nothing to, like, I like the comics that have to do with, it's sort of like, I'll give you an example. Or a metaphor, whatever you want to call it. It's like watching the X-Files, okay? I don't need an X-Files episode that's a one-off. I like the ones that have to do with the greater, like, canon of the show. Same thing here. I felt like I was reading a one-off issue where I was like, who cares? What is this?
Can I step in for a second?
Why are we watching this? Yeah,
hold
please.
On. First of all, in the 80s, almost all comics were standalone. However, this issue, I've read every issue of Quasar. This is not a standalone issue. It's the first issue where he meets Kayla, who he hires, and goes on to be a supporting character for the rest of the series. It's the first issue where he gets his business. It's the first issue where we meet the Angler. It's the first issue where Eon meets his father. So it's not really standalone because everything that happens in this issue is just the
Okay.
beginning of
I'll
where
tell you what.
goes.
I will succumb to all that, and then still tell you I hated it.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
I did. I just thought it was
So-
boring and bad. I
Mike Yell.
didn't care. And maybe the problem was the Human Torch element, because it's like I don't need. Why are we bringing in another comic book hero here? Where I'm like, that's got nothing. Like ultimately, I'm like, why is he here? I'm like, I don't care.
Mhm.
And again, I hate. By the way, hate the Fantastic Four. If I haven't mentioned,
he's there because they're breaking into the Baxter Building. So that's,
Yeah.
right. No. I get it from that sense, but I'm saying let's not do that. Like,
But
let's
you
not.
put Human Torch on the cover of Quasar, you sell more books.
I understand that, but I'm saying let's not do that. Let's not let's not involve the Human Torch and the Fantastic Four because it was just a cheap gimmick. It was gimmicky.
This is true, but I mean, at the end of the day, this is not high art. This is a comic meant to sell copies, right? Like, so I can forgive them putting Human Torch in there. I mean, what do you expect?
Michael, let me ask you: does the Angler show up again?
I'm pretty sure he does because I think we find out more about him later. I'm pretty sure.
Well, that's unfortunate because he's terrible too.
Oh, I love him.
I didn't hate the things he could do. I did hate his dialogue.
Yeah,
I liked it. Just so you guys know, the Angler appears in 8 issues of Quasar, so he does come back several times.
Huh.
Man,
that's
a lot.
And is he always talking like that? Like, I was in shape, blah blah blah, shape.
I hope so.
Oh God, that's terrible.
All right, so let's talk about the artist here, Paul Ryan, born in Massachusetts in 1949. Sadly, he passed away in 2016.
Yeah.
Lost them both. He
graduated. Rob Liefeld's Captain America #2.
Yeah. But there is a tie into that Heroes Reborn thing we'll get to in a minute. But he was born in Massachusetts, and I already read that. But he graduated from the Massachusetts College of Art in 1971. He joined the National Guard. He worked in the graphics department of an engineering firm for 11 years. And then he got into comics in 1982. So he was, pushing 30 there when he's getting into the comics. Actually, 30. Wow, 33. All right. But he submitted work to Charleston Comics. They were doing some open audition thing, and they accepted his work. But then the title he was going to have it printed in, I think it was called Bullseye. They tried to feature upcoming artists. The book folded before he got printed. But the work eventually got print somewhere in some other anthology, and that got him hired as Bob Layton's assistant.
Cool.
Bob Layton moved to Boston, and he's looking for an assistant, and someone recommended this fella. And so he worked for Bob Layton for a year and trained under him. And then he started getting gigs at Marvel in '85. He co-created DP7 with Mark Gruenwald, and he drew all 32 issues. In 1987, he drew Amazing Spider-Man Annual 21. Tell the kids what that was, Michael.
That was the wedding annual.
That's right. He drew the issue where Spider-Man got married.
That's right. I forgot about that.
He did the first 6 issues of Quasar in 1989. Then in 1992, he took over the Daily Spider-Man newspaper strip, and he did that for 3 years.
Cool.
Then he had a 5-year run on Fantastic Four, Brandon's favorite book, from 1991 to 1996. And the run ended when he found out on the internet that Jim Lee was taking over the book for that Heroes.
That's right.
And he was so pissed, he said, "Fuck you, Marvel, I quit." And he moved to DC. And he jumped over to DC.
Huh.
But Paul Ryan he ranks 3rd in all-time Fantastic Four issues drawn, behind only Jack Kirby and John Byrne.
Wow, I didn't know that. Huh.
So at DC, he did some Superman stuff. He drew the Flash, and he also contributed to the Superman wedding issue. How about that? He drew the Spider-Man and the Superman weddings. That's crazy.
So okay, and this is going to be like a fanboy question. I'm going to ask you both because I'm sure you've discussed this. Do you both have a favorite writer and a favorite artist?
I do, absolutely.
Yeah. One second. Let me just finish Paul Ryan. One other.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I thought sorry.
Random.
Sorry.
There's one other thing before we get into that.
Sorry.
From 2005 until 2016, when he died, he was drawing the Phantom newspaper series. He liked the Phantom. Anybody? The Phantom? No one? All right. Fair enough. To answer your question, Brandon, my favorite writer would be not Mark Gruenwald. Trying to think. What was that? We have audio clips now? What was that?
No, I think that's my alarm on my phone. Sorry.
I'm trying to think of my favorite. my favorite writer would be. I like Frank Miller's Daredevil run. With
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
But I don't know if I have a writer I look at and like, oh, I got to read this because he wrote it.
I have many.
Artist-wise, I like Art Adams, Paul Smith, early Frank Miller.
Yeah, I was just curious. Well, let me hear Mike L's too. Like, so.
My favorite writers are Alan Moore, Grant Morrison.
Yeah.
Mark Waid. I mean, I like early Frank Miller for sure in the 80s.
Yeah.
And then artists are Jack Kirby, John Buscema, John Romita, Gil Kane, Alex Toth, people like that.
John Romita. So
yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, I like John Romita Sr. more than Jr., but I like Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just funny. Like at this point, like I don't think personally I could even like remember who I love the most. I was just like thinking about that though, because like, and I'm sure you guys must have when you were younger too, right? Like the first thing, like, so unless it was a comic that you're already invested in other words, like oh yeah, I'm just going to read this because this is the title I'm into. Sometimes you would pick up a comic just based solely on the artwork, right? I mean, am I wrong about that? Like you would see it and be like, oh my God, I have to check this out. So like, whether it was like McFarlane or like Rob Liefeld or like whoever was like doing something, you're like, oh, so yeah, that's always a weird thing to me where I'm like, well, they weren't the best comics, but holy shit, they just looked amazing. So you had to get them. But yeah, okay, I was just curious.
How do you feel about this art, Brandon?
The art was fine. Like I liked it for that period. In other words, like I like that period of artwork, if that makes sense. And so I was like, it's good. Like I'm like, that's something I dig.
See, I don't like this period, like late 80s, early 90s. I do not like it all.
Oh, see, I do. Like I'm kind of into it. I just did not like. Again, I didn't like the story. I didn't like the writing, but I was completely fine with the artwork. I'm like, yeah, because like that's like when I was reading comics. I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, you know what? When I was a kid, I loved this art. I don't think it's great, but I think it's very straightforward and clear. It's almost like Kurt Swan, but not as good. But I do really like it.
It's interesting you mentioned that because one of his biggest influences was Kurt Swan when he was a young kid.
That is surprising. Yeah.
But I think you can also see a lot of Bob Layton here. That made a lot of sense when he found out he was his assistant because it reminded me a lot of Bob Layton.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
So there you go. So Quasar issue 3, Brandon, 1 out of 10. What do you think?
Ooh, 1 out of 10 on this. Wow, that is tough. 1 out of 10 on this. I think about a 2.
A 2. All right.
Because again, I didn't hate the artwork, but I hated everything else. Yeah. And I liked I liked Eon. So yeah. So I think about a 2. I'll leave it there. Yeah.
I will go 3 because I don't know why. I just don't want to hurt Mike Hale's feelings too badly, but I'll give it a 3. I didn't like any of this at all. I think Quasar is just terrible.
Yeah.
But I like Kayla. I like her fashion sense. She looked good. So I'll give it a 3. Mike Hale.
All right. Well, my 80s.
All right, we lost.
And that's why this made me a Quasar fan for life.
Yeah, you cut out on us. We missed what you said, but you said.
I was wondering why I didn't get a reaction. Yeah, I give it a 7.
Oh, boo!
Yes.
Now you see what I have to deal with. Now you see what I have to deal with, Brandon, every week on the show. Mike L just likes these terrible.
But wait, so Mike L, is this the issue of Quasar?
No.
Quasar?
No, number one.
Okay, then what are you talking about?
Well, the whole series is this good, so.
But I'm saying, like, this can't be a 7. You must have been like, okay, this is a 4.
No. It's 7. I love it. Me and all my friends love this comic as a kid. All of us.
Again, but not this issue.
Oh, yes.
It was terrible.
Oh, yes.
Love
this.
Guys, You guys had to be in like the worst gang ever. in Canada.
Exactly.
You know, my friends like Quasar. That's like the worst street gang ever. You all have headbands and bracelets.
Telling you, man, you guys just don't get it. Just over your head. I think that's the problem.
Yeah,
fucking Americans, man.
Fucking Yanks.
In Canada, everybody puts on a headband. They're like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, all right. So next week it's my pick. I think we're going to go 1981, and we're going to go the Savage She-Hulk, issue 19.
Oh, nice. 19?
Oh, that's pretty good.
The Savage She-Hulk. I've never read any She-Hulk.
I haven't either, but I like that it's a Marvel comic. I'm like, ooh, that's good.
So
Shit, I might join you again.
well, if you wanted, here's what I'm going to say, Brandon. I feel bad that you were tricked into doing this.
He was not tricked. He was given a choice of 10 comics, and he picked Quasar.
Again, I did not pick Quasar. I picked Marvel.
Wow.
So let me know.
Marvel.
Anytime you want to come back on.
That's your
anytime
problem.
you want to come back on, Brandon, whether, whenever, you just let me know, and you pick the issue. Anything you want.
Wow, really?
All right. Yeah.
Oh. Well, so if let me just ask you guys this. So, like, can I pick, like, just a Spider-Man issue? Like, does it matter when it is?
It just has to be.
It has to be.
That's it.
Yeah, it has to be 70 to 89.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so 70. Okay, that's fine. I'm sure I can find one that. Yeah. Let me do. I'll tell you what. Let me do a little research and find one because again, I guarantee I can find an amazing Spider-Man that I loved.
Yeah.
Like during that period. So yeah.
Yeah, just let me know. We'll work it out. And if Mike L has a book picked already, it's all right. We'll cancel his issue and
no way in heck.
We'll have you do it. So
You'll take one of Mike Dell's picks.
Well, no, I think better yet, you let me know when we're doing Quasar 4.
There you go. Better yet, why don't we revive Quasar Chronology and have you be the co-host? How about that?
Perfect. Again, like the bottom line, and like I'll be totally honest with you, I don't care what comic we're talking about. I'm more than happy to come on here and complain. Like that's the bottom line. Because like, whether it was that DC comic that that was miserable, and this was miserable too. And again, I'm like, I'm not telling you what to love. Like obviously you love what you love. I hated them. Sorry, I did. I hated that. I read this comic for today, and I was like, what's wrong with me? I was like, are all comics this way? I'm like, should I be ashamed of myself for having been a comic book fan? That's what I thought. I honestly thought that. I was like, maybe I shouldn't have liked comics. I'm like, this is embarrassing. I found this comic book embarrassing. That was how I felt. I was like, it was a terrible comic.
Oh no. There's a review for you. You can put that up on
Quasar 3. Fuck this.
Embarrassed to like comics.
That's how I felt.
Well, all right.
Sorry.
Well, I guess we're done here. Thank you, Brandon.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Brandon.
you're more than welcome for me to shit on everything you love. So.
No, I need a break sometimes. I get tired of shitting on everything Mike loves. So
I mean, if only you were here for Falcon, things would have been so much better. But anyway. Yeah. Okay, so tune in every week to hear a new review of a Bronze Age comic. You can find Flea Market Fantasy on Stitcher, iTunes, and Spotify under Comic Book Syndicate. You can also follow the Comic Book Syndicate Twitter page, Facebook, YouTube, and the Syndicate website. Every week we review a different Bronze Age comic. 1 week I pick, 1 week Mike Dell picks. So until next Tuesday, disperse!